Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So I've just been watching a video by Ribena called Easy Inky Fun with Elegant Water Pens, and I thought I'm going to give this a try. And I don't have those pens, but I'll see what I've got. So this first pen is a Pilot VTech. It's actually a disposable pen. I don't buy them now because of the fact that they are disposable, but I thought I would try it. This is a Pit Artist in black, and all I'm showing you now is how if you apply water they do start to spread out a bit and give this inky effect, though in some instances you still see the main line below. This is a Daily Rounner acrylic paint pen. I expected this to move a bit more, but still get quite a hard line with that. And then finally I'm using one of the big brush pens out of this set. Again, it's Pit Artist and the colour is Raw Umber. Now I did try various other pens beforehand, such as Sharpies, and I couldn't get the same effect. All I wanted to do here was to really experiment to see if I could get the kind of same effects as Nina. So I'm doing a basic daisy on ATC size cards, 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. I'm not too concerned about the drawing. I'm more interested here about what effects I can get with what pens. So I start with the big brush in the Raw Umber. Now I noticed Nina started with a small paintbrush, so I thought I'd do the same, and actually it just wasn't doing it, so I took a slightly bigger paintbrush. But what I had to do was really to go over the top of the ink. It wasn't the water and the brush wasn't grabbing the ink in the same way that Nina managed to do with the Elegant writer pens. I'm guessing just a different type of pen, different ink, etc. However, I wanted to persevere, so what I'm trying to do here is just to create a kind of background that has not a flat effect, so different variances of the ink in different places. So you'd see I'd added a bit more there, going over it again, just trying to spread it out. And actually because I like sepia, I think I quite liked this card and the way it turned out. It had that kind of tea or coffee dyed effect in the background. So all in all, I quite liked the way this pen worked. Didn't get the same effect as Nina. Her pen was the ink was breaking into a couple of different colours. This stayed very much true to colour. Just trying the splatter effect that she did, and that worked fine. So now I'm going to try the VTech from, I think it's VTech they call it, from Pilot, a V pen anyway. Again, just drawing a very rough daisy. Using the small brush again. Again, it's not giving me the effect that I want, so I will revert to the bigger one. But what I found with this is it was actually scrubbing most of the colour out. It took most of the colour of the pen out. So I dry it at this stage, and what I do is I go back in with that and just go over my original drawing, just putting that back in. Putting the little dots on the daisy, a few added lines, because even though this is an experiment, I want to make these cards as nice as I possibly can. A bit of a border, again, just trying to blend that into the card. I don't want anything too hard at this point. And just trying to blend it into the background. Again, trying to get a bit of a kind of mottled effect in the background. Now you'll see I actually touched the ink again, so it does start to run. So I think that's the thing with this type of pen, it's going to run whenever you touch it. And I've found over the years of using different types of pen in mixed media that usually they run when you don't want them to run. So again, tried the splatter test, that worked fine. Just taking the paintbrush to add a little bit more colour to the daisy. Just picking it up there. I had actually spread it out on a bit of greaseproof paper. just so that I could then try and lift it. I knew if I put it onto ordinary paper I'd have difficulty lifting it to do the splatters. So now using the Pit Artist in black, this is a much finer pen than the big brush. Again, I start with the small brush and it's really barely picking anything up until I start to go right over it. So again, get the bigger paintbrush and go right over it. I was really having to almost scrub with this one to get it to move, and you can almost see the paper starting to bobble just a little bit. It starts to pill a little. So at this point I give this a dry. And I decide to add some detail, trying to put in the border, looking at trying to blend it out a bit. And this one didn't want to move terribly much. Keep trying to work at it, just trying to get it to spread. Not happening just now, so again I tried the splatter test. That works quite well. The paper was still wet, so it did start to absorb them a bit, but I then just used the ink that I had on my piece of greaseproof paper just to start to add more colour to the background and to the daisy itself. This one actually, if it had anything going for it, it gave a nice kind of vintage photograph type effect, black and white photograph. So now onto the Daler Rowney acrylic paint marker. And again, not able to get this to pick up terribly well, picking up little bits but not much. So again I have to go in and go right across it, and this one I had to really almost scrub quite hard with it, and again you can see the effect on the paper. And this is good quality, or fairly good quality watercolour paper, same as I used the other day. I think it's £140. These were little offcuts that I had left from the project that I did just a couple of days ago. So again, looking to see if I can create a border. I started to work that as soon as I put it down, and it's still leaving quite a dark line. So applying quite a lot of water to this one. Dab it off. And again, I'm going to try the splatter effect, and that works fine. Again, I just decided to use that to start working it into the background. Now I'm going to end up rubbing out some of my splatters. I had been going to dry them beforehand, but my heat tool keeps packing in. It'll run for a minute or two, switch it off, and then it won't switch on again for about 10 minutes. So definitely going to go and get a new one this week. So the two that I liked the best were the one with the raw umber big brush pen and also the Pilot V pen. So I've decided with this final card that I'm actually going to try and combine these. Now I get to the point with this where it feels like a fail, feels like a disaster, but I keep working it. So I start with the raw umber, draw my daisy. As I say, I'm just trying to draw very rough daisies here. This is more about experimenting with the pens than anything else, but I wanted to do the same sort of kind of design as Nina, just to see where it takes me. So I went all over the daisy with the water, spread out the raw umber as much as possible, and now I'm going in with my other pen. Now you'll see that it's actually starting to feather a bit. That's because at this point my heat tool wasn't working, so I couldn't dry it, and I didn't have the patience to wait, so I just carried on. So here I'm now just trying to work around the edges of the black V-Tech just to try and pick up that ink. The feathered effect actually isn't too bad. I think with most things I can kind of live with it, but the more I started to play, the more it started to spread. and I actually quite like the colour of this. It's not a jet black, it goes more a kind of very dark, with a slight hint of blue. Almost a dark Payne's grey in a sense. So now using the raw umber again, which I just put onto the piece of greaseproof paper, and then using it more in a kind of paint way. As I combined the two, I knew I had a reasonable amount of work to do to bring it to something that I liked, but as the two colours started to combine, I really liked it. So what I've done now is I've gone back to the daisy, and what I'm trying to do is to lift some of the black ink from it, and then you'll see me, I get water, I lift some, and then I tend to just put it somewhere else on the card. I then dab it all over with my cloth, which has lifted a fair bit out of it. And at this point I lay down some more of the raw umber and then just start to use that to colour the daisy in. Again, using that to add to the background. Just putting a bit more colour back into the background since I'd actually lifted a lot out. Using the black pen again to try and get a few splatters. And this time just doing a very sketchy border that I'm not actually going to blend out. And a few little markings on the daisy. So then, just to finish off, I decide that I'll use this Uniball signal on all of the daisies. So this is white, just adding a little bit of highlights here and there, and on each one I add it into the border a little bit. And I feel that it really helped to lift those that were just in the kind of black and white and especially the couple that I was less keen on. So just little touches of white make such a difference. It took these cards from being totally almost bland, just added something. And that one there, I put a lined effect in the background just to try and add interest, and it ended up looking a bit like rain, so that was fine. This one, using it to almost try and colour in all the petals on the daisy. And yes, like Nina, I rub my white pen off on my hand because that seems to be the best way to get it going. Little bits to this card, which had the two different pens in it, and I think of them all, this is my favourite. It just had a little bit more interest with the two colours, but I think they had quite a kind of vintage effect in the end. Just adding a few white dots and giving them a good dry. So those two I would discard. I liked the raw umber from the Pit Artist, and I liked the VTech. So these were simply the pens that I had to hand. I had others that I could have tried, but just decided to go with these. So do check out Nina's video linked below. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.